Hey everyone, how are you? I wanted to share a little bit about what I've been learning going through this 3-year journey with cancer. And I was having lunch with a dear friend today, and I was sharing that I almost feel, because this started in the fall of spring or September of 21. I had a reoccurrence last year, spring of 23, and a reoccurrence this year, spring of 24. And I almost feel like each one is like a different leg of the journey that I'm on for my transformation. And I wanted to share some of the things I had learned as part of my transformation. So you remember that I was pregnant, and at 19 weeks we lost my daughter. She came naturally. I gave birth to her, and unfortunately we couldn't save her. She was too young for that. So it's a devastating loss. And I had weeks after of just being so depressed and so sad as my body healed from pregnancy. And then I went to see the OBGYN because I was having some pain in my side, and I thought maybe it was appendicitis or something. And after seeing the OBGYN, she identified my right ovary was 5 times the size it should be. And I was referred immediately to a gyno-oncologist who at first didn't think it was anything, but after a week of tests told me it was definitely stage 4 cancer, and we would need to figure out what kind. And then weeks later, after a bunch of tests, I found out it was stage 4 colon cancer. End of September of 21, I had massive surgery to remove, all the cancer, and amazing surgeons. I remember the night before going into surgery, this is kind of number one thing I learned, which was how important it is to surrender to these things. I was terrified that I would die in that surgery, and I was talking to my good friend Cindy, who I had lunch with today, and she shared that you need to surrender to the experience. Ask the universe, God, guides, anybody to be there with you in the room. I remember she told me to thank the people in the room who were there for me, and I did that, and it was so powerful being rolled in on that and just saying to everybody in the room, thank you for being here for me. Ooh, that's emotional. But of course, I just appreciated and I thanked them in advance. I think I said, I thank you, all of you, in advance for saving me. And, I haven't thought about that in a while. But super powerful. And coming out of that surgery, I was just so grateful. I was so grateful to be alive. And I think a big part of that first phase was me feeling this immense gratitude for being alive. And I remember years ago hearing someone talk about, I don't even remember who it was a sociologist or an anthropologist, talking about how human beings think about death, and that many of us were scared of dying. And why are we so scared? When we had agrarian societies, when we had societies that were focused around farming, hunting, gathering, those kinds of things, when people would die, it was a group experience. The group experienced it and held space for each other and had rituals and things. And in many ways, someone who passed would be in the middle of everything, maybe in the center of the village or in a place you could go honor them. And partly what's happened is, this person was saying, which has always stuck with me, I'm not sure if this is true per se, but it's powerful, that death is a myth. We don't see death. And then when people die that we love, we dress them up in a casket. I'm not making a statement about what we do to honor, like whatever we do is fine. I'm specifically talking about when you're faced with like your own mortality, like it is like record scratching, drop the mic kind of moment. Like, what do you do? And surrendering to it was such great counsel. And I am so grateful that I did. And it allowed me to move into gratitude. And then very quick heels of that was the end of September. In early October, I had people saying, well, what do you need? What do you need? What can I get you? And I remember my immediate reaction was to say, sorry, I don't need anything. And I might have even been talking to my friend Cindy. And I think she shared, if it wasn't her, it was somebody else shared, you need to allow us to do things to help you because we're dealing with this too and we don't know what to do. And I don't know what to do because I've never been through it. And from that point to now, I can't tell you how many times I've started to type, you didn't need to do this, but this was amazing. And I take that out now and I just say thank you. Thank you for sending a message. Thank you for sending me flowers. Thanks for sending a card. Thanks for sending me a text. Like, honestly, thanks for putting a message on my YouTube channel. All of it makes a big difference in just feeling like I'm not alone here, and so many of you are there lifting me up. So I think that first year was so much about honoring being alive. Your life is fragile, and it can change so quickly. It was so hugely devastating to lose my daughter, and then a couple weeks later think I was going to lose my life. Like, it was... even at the beginning, just dealing with like, why is this happening to me? And recognize, like, initially I felt like I was being punished for something, right? Like, I'm a good person and why is this happening? And yet, people would say that to me, like, you're such a good person, how could this be happening to you? And I think as a society, I know I've said this on videos before, and I feel like it might have been through church and stuff growing up, but like, if you're a good person, good things will happen to you. And I do believe that's true. I still believe that's true. I also believe that, tragedies and bad things happen to good people too. All of us are susceptible to any of this. Look at COVID. How many amazing people lost a spouse or a parent or whomever because of COVID? It's not because you're a bad person. It just happened. And we have to deal with these challenges. So the second thing I learned, so the first thing I learned that first year is just honoring being alive. And by the spring of that year, I was so physically exhausted from chemo because I had 12 rounds and they were so intense. And I was depressed. I was really sad and dealing with the loss of my daughter. And also I had chemo fog brain really bad. So I was working, but I really couldn't do much. And that was very disappointing and debilitating in itself. So the second thing that I learned that first year, one is about honoring being alive and the gratitude around it. And the second is honoring authentically who I am and who that person is, allowing that person and how she feels to exist with everyone. So instead of hiding my sadness, I would share it. Every day I cried. I think that spring I cried every day. And every time I went to treatment, I cried. Why is this happening to me? I don't want this to happen. How come I don't have my daughter? How come other friends get to have kids and I don't get to have kids? I'm sorry, all this is coming up, but it is. And I promised myself, and Brian was an amazing partner in this, to just let it come out. Let it come out. And, I think a lot of times when people are hurting, we have a tendency, it makes us uncomfortable when people are crying and sad, and we want to go over to them and we want to hug them, but almost like stop the tears, stop it from happening, because it hurts us to see them struggling and going through pain. And I'm really grateful that my husband gave me room, that Brian gave me room to mourn. And we're talking every day, folks. I cried, and he really let me cry. And that was a beautiful thing. And I'm so grateful because it needed to come out. If it doesn't come out, it stays in, and that is not good for you. Let the pain, let it all come out. So that was the first year. Last year, spring of 23, I had my first reoccurrence. And last year, the big lesson learned was all about kind of eating healthier and working out. And post my first year of chemo and that fall, because I was immediately in menopause, I gained a bunch of weight And I went back to eating some things that I shouldn't eat. And, I'm a sucker for some French fries now and again. I probably added some some of that fried food back into my diet. And then when the reoccurrence happened, I thought, okay, I have a choice here. What is my choice? My choice is to be healthier, to eat better. And it's when I really seriously started, instead of walking 2 miles a day, but I worked up to walking 4 miles a day. And I'm pretty close to walking 3 to 4 miles every single day. And I've lost 25, 30 pounds since last year. And that's a big deal for me. And it's so important. It is a commitment you make to yourself. It's a choice you make every time you're hungry for that sweet. Should I have the sweet or should I just not? Should I have water? And, emptying your pantry of bad, like food that's not healthy for you. And also educating myself on the kinds of things I was eating where it is bad for me, and just learning more about that. Even something as simple as perfume, I have found can do a real number. I read in articles can do a real number on your hormones. Now, I'm not a medical person, so I'm not saying don't wear perfume, but I then did a whole search of like clean scents that I could wear, and just exploring what are the things I'm putting on my body, around my body, in my body, so that I could be healthier. So that was last year. This year, I'm very much focused on being present, and present is everything. And as I shared in a recent video, happiness is a choice. And I think one of the choices we sometimes make I would make, as part of my recovering perfectionism, I've told you guys that being a perfectionist, I would think ahead and like, what's going to happen? And I would gamify things, if this happens at the job, then this will happen, and then this will happen. And I would feel comfort in knowing what's going to happen. And obviously, there's so many things we don't control in what's going to happen. Obviously, look at my medical history. I mean, I was pretty much a healthy person up to when all this stuff happened, as far as I knew. And there were other things underground that I just didn't see. So one of the big things I'm focused on is really trying to honor present day. And it leads back to that very first thing I learned the first year, and honoring being alive. Like, right now is real. Your past happened, but you probably have a filter on that past that you remember, right? So I don't think as human beings, if you watched a video of it, you, me, another person, all three of us would have a different point of view of probably what happened there based off our experience. So the past is something you're remembering based off the filter of your mindset and how you're thinking about it. So it's not a truth. Can be true for you in that moment, but it's not the truth. The future is made up. I mean, there's nothing we can bank on for the future. Look at what's happening in the United States with the politics and all these different things that we took for granted, like we can't take for granted anymore. So the future is not set. And so what do we do about this? Well, what I'm learning, and, especially being a perfectionist, a big part of looking into the future was trying to de-escalate my fear of things not being perfect, of them not happening right. If they don't happen right, then something bad will happen. And in essence, living my life to avoid fear. So I'm very much focused now on living for today. What is good for today? And I'm not saying, by the way, this is an ongoing thing. So it's not like I made this decision April 1st and I'm doing it every single day effectively. It's a new way of being for me. It's a new way. It's a new operating system for me. And so I need to practice it, and I am practicing it. The more I talk about it, the more I do it, the more it happens. And so I don't know how these lessons can serve you, but they're human lessons, and my hope is they do serve you in some way. I love this community. I'm grateful for all of you. Thank you for your love and support. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, do all those things. It means a lot to me. So thanks, everyone. Hopefully this was helpful. And let's fingers crossed next week I get to do my 5th chemo session. I did get my white blood cell booster shot yesterday, and so hoping that all moves in the right direction. So be well, everyone, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye now.